have a special message or a special word of encouragement for parents and grandparents and neighbors that have young people in their lives. My kids are older. My kids are 21 and 23, and I thank God every day that I am not having to navigate this crazy, crazy time with our kids, little ones, going to school, not going to school, homeschooling, all of these different factors. It's really overwhelming, and I just want you parents and families to know that we are praying for you. We really are with you in spirit, and you're making hard decisions every day. And just know that we are with you in spirit. Sometimes you just don't know what to do, and that can feel a little stressful. And this situation just in general is stressful. I attended a webinar a while back now, and it was called Spiritual and Mental Health for Children and Teens. And the Humanitarian Disaster Institute, which is part of Wheaton College, and the National Association of Evangelicals is who put that on. And I just thought to myself as I was watching it, I hope other parents are hearing this. So we all thought that this would be done by now, that we would have thrown away our masks and we would be back to business as normal, and yet here we are all these months later and it continues. So I'm going to offer what I learned from Beth Cunningham and Pamela King as part of that web conference to you, in the hope that it will help you as we continue to navigate these uncertain times. So Dr. Cunningham, as she was talking, she said, children and adolescents, they have not yet developed the effective skills to identify, to communicate, or even manage their emotions. So you may be experiencing that at home right now, because when kids don't know how to say what they're feeling, it is usually a physical or a visceral response. So perhaps your kids are a little more irritable, maybe more tantrums, perhaps they have trouble sleeping or nightmares, they're withdrawn from others, clinging behaviors. I know when my kids were upset when they were little, I always knew if they weren't telling me that something was wrong, if they were clinging to me more, there was something happening with their little minds and their little hearts that they just couldn't put into words. A decreased level of interest in things that I've always interested in them. Maybe they're physically complaining of tummy aches or my head hurts, and that's not normally something they would do. Kids will sometimes also seek reassurance on a regular basis, always asking, is this okay? Am I all right? These are all things that Dr. Cunningham was saying that we should be paying attention to, because if they're saying these things, they're simply trying to latch onto those identifiable things that are happening into their life because they can't seem to process their emotions or the thought processes that are happening. So what we need to do when we sense these things, when we see our kids reacting in ways that are not the norm, we need to create a space for them to reflect and to process what they're feeling. When these little people have big emotions, big thoughts, we need to listen and listen well to what they have to share to help them process that. So Dr. Cunningham identified a 5-step process, and the things we're going to be going through, if you find this helpful, there's a handout that you can get from the church office that will help you see these, and we will also show them on the screen. The first step that she said is ask, but don't just say, how was your day? Ask engaging and open-ended questions. I know I was guilty about this when my kids were little. How was your day today? Fine. What did you do today? Nothing. Am I the only one that had this experience? Probably not, right? This is what kids do. You have to be specific. She said, ask your child, what made you smile today? Or what was difficult about today? So ask specific questions. And then once the kids are talking to you, reflect what you hear. Say something like, it sounds like this is what you're saying, or I hear some anger or sadness in your voice as you talk about that. And then not only hear what they are saying, but notice what their body is telling you. What is their facial expression telling you? What are they doing with their hands? What about their shoulders? Are they curled up or are their bodies open? And respond. Say, it looks like you're feeling a big emotion when you said that, or it seems like you're upset about something. The words and the facial expressions aren't matching. So what does that tell you? The other thing, especially now in this uncertain time, is to help kids know it is okay and normal to feel what they're feeling. A lot of people are feeling that right now. Not just little people, but big people. We are all feeling this sense of uncertainty. We all have anger. We all have this just worry about what's coming next. And so it's important that kids know that these feelings that they're having are normal. We need to normalize them and say without judgment, it's okay to feel that way. The other thing that Dr. Cunningham emphasized, and I know this can be really difficult in our day where we're constantly surrounded by screens, is to make sure that we're giving our kids developmentally appropriate information. That's really hard, especially when you live in a household where you have a wide range of ages. How do you make sure that the older kids who can process information are getting the information they need, but the littles who can't really understand what's happening aren't being overwhelmed with information that they are unable to process? She suggested, and I thought this was great, is that you use social stories to talk to younger children about the pandemic. And she had two resources that she recommended. One is Trinket and Sam Fighting the Big Virus. Sounds like a great book to read with your kids. Not before bed, I don't think, though. And then another place that you can find resources for kids to talk about hard things, to talk about these emotions they're experiencing. Another thing that Dr. Cunningham recommended, and I think this is really important, not only during this time of pandemic and during this time of the election cycle, but just in general, is during this time when people are responding in different ways to what's happening, to model openness to new information and to different perspectives, as well as to model kindness to all, regardless of their perspective. Everybody is making the best decision that they can based on the information that they have and their personal circumstances. And so the way we respond as adults when we're in the presence of kids, it models for them how they should respond when something different is happening that they don't understand, or something is happening to somebody else that's different than what they have experienced. Kids, not only the littles, but even adolescents into teens, they pick up on the judgments that we make about others. They pick up on the judgments that we make about how others are handling the pandemic, and they pick up on the way that we treat others. So it's very important when everything else is so stressful that we try and think about how the way that we respond is influencing these young and impressionable minds that are around us. So we go through all of this. We're thinking about modeling these behaviors, we're listening, we're responding. But the truth is that no matter what you do, you're going to experience frustration. You are going to have those times when your mind feels like it's going to blow up. And these littles, again, they don't have this way to process this information. And so Dr. Cunningham provided some really great coping strategies. And she came up with 4 different kinds of things that you can do with your kids can do on their own. Things that are relaxing, things that are high energy, things that are enjoyable, and other things that just make your brain think about something different, that engage your mind in a way that'll derail the negativity and maybe get you going in a more positive way. Also, if you do one of these high energy exercises, you release endorphins, which makes you feel better. So I love that she suggests doing jumping jacks. What a great thing. Your kids are feeling stressed and you say, go into the middle of the yard and do 10 jumping jacks. My kids would have looked at me like I was crazy, but for some kids, that's just what they need. They needed an opportunity to derail, to step away from the stress, and then come back at things with a new perspective. So this sheet that is going to be available through the church office has all of these activities. Maybe you could just put this on your refrigerator. And if your kids are feeling the stress, say, go pick something off of the refrigerator to do for a little while. Go pick something off the relaxation. Or maybe you could write these on a sheet of paper and keep them on a bowl in the middle of your table. And if one of the kids or maybe you, maybe me, is having trouble, is having a moment of stress, you just reach into that bowl and you pull out one of those coping strategies, and you go and you do that, and you allow yourself to be derailed from the negativity and the stress that's happening. The second presenter that really captured my attention during this webinar was Dr. Pamela King. And she offered another perspective, which is for kids, but also for us. And she said, one of the things that we can do is we can pray and we can meditate and breathe, reflect, and journal on all of these emotions that are going through us. It's also a great time for us to turn to the Bible, to dig into Scripture, to examine our beliefs, to think about our faith, to think about the values that we have and the hope that comes from our belief, the hope that comes from our faith, the hope that grounds us even when the world around us feels really crazy and out of control. One of the things that Dr. King said that echoes what Dr. Hamilton was saying is pay attention to your body. So Dr. Hamilton suggests, or Dr. Cunningham suggests, when you're talking to your child, pay attention to their body. Are their shoulders rolled? Are they closing their eyes when they're talking? All these things, but do the same for yourself. Think about your body. Am I holding my shoulders tight? Am I constantly walking around with my hand in a fist? Do I find myself with an upset stomach a lot? These are things that we need to pay attention to, our bodies. Our God created our bodies to be in harmony with our spirits. So if our body is out of whack, if our body feels stress, it's probably because there's something else happening inside that we need to be attentive to. The other part of that is that when you notice these things are happening, what Dr. King said is linger, but don't loiter. Be intentional, pay attention to what is happening, but spending a lot of time is not always great. She says more is not always more. Think deeply about what's happening and think about its significance, but don't obsess about it. Don't loiter upon those emotions that you're feeling. Take time to reflect, but also laugh and play. Nothing will get you through a stressful time like finding a good way to laugh and relax. So what I would offer you is my key takeaways from that web conference, which again was really wonderful and helped me as I thought about the families that I know work through this stress. Don't be too hard on yourself. Be kind and gracious with yourself and with others. Nobody has ever been through this before. There is no expert on how to do this. Everybody is learning as we go. Even though we've been doing it for however many months it's been now, we are all still learning. So don't put too much stress on yourself. And don't compare yourself or determine your value or success based on what others are doing. You just have to do what's right for you. You don't have to worry about the next door neighbor or the other students or whatever the case may be. Just focus on what's right for you and your family. Be sure that through all of this, that you are supporting yourself spiritually, spending time in prayer, spending time looking at scriptures. Journaling is a great way for any age to process these feelings, and prayer journaling can be a really, really beautiful way to do that. Find a verse that's meaningful for you, write it in the middle of the page, and then draw pictures that come to mind as you think about that scripture and what it means for your life. This is a great time for us to help feel and experience the love of God, because that is what we can rely on in all of this. We can rely on God's loving presence, and then we can be God's loving presence for others. We can be for God, we can be with God, and we can offer God. The final thing I want to leave you with is to remember that God's story is still being written. Even though the Bible is from Genesis to Revelation, we are still part of a story that is being written. God is not finished with us yet. God is not finished writing the story of creation. We are a part of it. And this is but one chapter. This pandemic craziness will one day be the closing chapter. The end of that chapter will come, and we'll open a new chapter. So don't feel like this is the end. This is just a part of this narrative. God is still moving. God is moving in the people around you, and God is moving in you. So I hope that this is helpful for you parents. I hope you found something in here that will help you as you process this and will help your littles as they try and understand this world that we are a part of right now. You can always come to me and talk about this if you want. Please know, like I said in the very beginning, I am praying for all of you that are navigating your way through this. Know that you are not alone. This resource with some information that we covered today, you can get a copy of that through the church office. Reach out to Joan or myself if you'd like to get a copy of that. Just know that this is a hard time for all of us, but together we will get through. God bless you.